Hey guys, and welcome. Today I wanted to talk about in more detail Naoe's backstory. She is a key character in the story of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I think it's really important to understand how she became the Shinobi we know her to be and where it all started. Drop a comment down below with your opinions on Assassin's Creed Shadows. I would love to know your thoughts on the game, and don't forget to drop a like down below as well if you enjoyed today's video. But without further ado, let's dive straight in. Now in this video we're going to be covering the entirety of Naoe's story from basically how the Creed started, because it heavily involves her, all the way up until the very end of the game, but is very critical to understanding Naoe's story, her past, and the people around her that will prove to be very, very important going forward in DLC and in the game in general. A man named Alvaro Catavira originated from Spain. He one day tangled himself up in some mess with the Templar Order and from then on heard about the Brotherhood. From that day on, Alvaro wanted to be a part of the Brotherhood, fight back against the Templars for basically destroying Europe. The Spanish Brotherhood was traditionalist in comparison to other branches, and by the 15th century they still retained archaic practices such as the amputation of the whole ring finger as a part of the induction ceremony, a sacrifice which, redesigning the blade, made redundant later on. Formerly a member of the Spanish Brotherhood, Catavira was excommunicated after killing an innocent girl, breaking one of the Creed's tenets. This led to him leaving Spain and embarking on a journey to the Far East, spending time in Malacca, Formosa, and finally Macau. There he overheard two Templars speaking of starting an expedition to Japan with the intention of spreading their ideals. Determining to stop their efforts, Catavira followed them and arrived in Nagasaki in 1549, using the arrival of the Jesuit and the Templar Francis Xavier delegation as cover and access. Realizing the need for allies against the group, Alvaro found that in a starving and injured girl named Tsuyu, raising and training her to follow in his footsteps. This laid the foundation of what became the Kakashiba Ikki. Alvaro went on to build his own version of the Brotherhood, in spite of that one that wouldn't accept him. One day the Templar Order got wind of their existence, and 3 boxes held in Japan named the Regalia. These boxes were said to be magical, able to change the future of the planet once and for all, give the power to whoever wields it. They infiltrated Japan in search of these boxes, and Alvaro and his apprentice Tsuyu needed assistance from the locals to fend them off and to hide the Regalia. They both made their way to Iga in search for help, and here is where they met Momichi Sandayu, Hanzo, and Nagato. Alvaro and Tsuyu explained everything to them, why they needed their help, and everything about these boxes, and they agreed to help. But not only did they agree to help, they agreed to join them in their efforts, form a league, and this was named the Kakashiga Ikki. They pledged an oath to the Creed to look after these boxes and look after each other. However, internally within the group, Hanzo and Nagato both fell in love with Tsuyu. Hanzo didn't have the courage to tell her, but Tsuyu fell in love with Nagato, and Hanzo couldn't bear it. From that day, the enemies grew fewer, and they were all able to live what were semi-normal lives. Nagato couldn't bear to see his beloved Tsuyu with Nagato, so he decided to leave and join the Emperor's army. He would unleash his anger and jealousy through his blade and be known as the Demon by the army. Hanzo, however, decided to leave the army one day and return to Iga to try and boast his accomplishments to Tsuyu, hoping to win her over and finally be with her. But when he returned, it was too late. Tsuyu and Nagato bared a child and named her Naoe. Nagato, filled with rage, he didn't know what to do. His jealousy and anger went through the roof, so he decided to do the unthinkable. Hanzo heard of an organization offering vast riches for information on the whereabouts of the Regalias, the 3 boxes. So Hanzo contacted this group, told them everything that he knew in spite. Hanzo had time to think over what he did and immediately regretted it, but it was way too late at that point. He tried to warn Tsuyu of this group knowing the location of them, but before he could get the letter to her, they infiltrated Iga. The organization already infiltrated the land, destroying Iga and taking the regalia. This was the Templar Order. Tsuyu and Nagato swore to an oath and had to ensure that oath was honoured by trying to defend the boxes and retain the regalia, even when Naoe was born. Tsuyu managed to retrieve one of the boxes and returned it and handed it over to Nagato, telling him she would return with the others very soon. But she didn't return. Nagato placed the regalia in a place called the Kofu around Iga to keep it safe. The only way of opening it was using the assassin's blade. Without it, you couldn't get in. This box would remain there for many years until Naoe was grown up, but Naoe didn't know a single thing about this. Now let's go back in time to when Naoe first started to get involved with the Ikki, with the Creed, and how all of that began. Naoe has always wanted to get involved with fighting and helping defend Iga. From a young age, even growing up, living alongside her father, she would always practice her combat with him daily, even making it interesting sometimes and wagering on the loser, making the dinner of their choice. Naoe would, however, do tasks for different people around Iga to help improve her training, including a lady named Matsu. She had some issues with her crops being taken and destroyed, and Naoe found and dealt with the poachers in the area that were doing so, and when she returned, she was buzzing that she dealt with them, but in doing so, heard about issues in the area and that a war was coming. However, Naoe during the invasion was allowed by Nagato to get involved. This included Naoe's first kill. How she reacted and how it made her feel, it brought her to tears as the blood covered her hands. She awoke a few nights later and walked outside to her father. Nagato stated that he heard her screaming in her sleep for the last few nights. Nagato felt guilty and knew he needed to ready Naoe better for combat, as Nobunaga's army would not stop after the first invasion. Naoe learns a meditation method called Kijikuri. It allows you to forget and be honest with yourself about the night or the nightmares that you're having. It banishes them completely. Naoe, however, would finish her training with her father and report to Sandayu. She was no longer a girl, but an Egan Shinobi. Sandayu sent Naoe on her first mission, checking out a bunch of Egans that hadn't been heard from in days. Naoe, however, would continue her training tirelessly throughout the nights, the different weather and the seasons, and continue on with her meditations, fighting back against her father in practice and even starting to get the better of him, starting to truly become who she was meant to be, a shinobi. Naoe was invited to the Ikki ceremony by Nagato to join them in discussions after defending Iga, but not only this, to become more involved with the Creed slowly. Nagato held off about talking about Naoe's mother Tsuyu much, just because of her origin and the connection to the Creed. She always wondered, but Nagato was tense about involving her. Naoe never really knew her mother, never got to know her. She was always a mystery in the back of her mind. The ceremony began, and suddenly, in walked Hattori Hanzo, one of the original members of the Kakoshiba Ikki. He entered the hut and told them that Lord Nobunaga was coming to Iga tonight, but he offered the protection of his lord to help save Iga. However, everyone is questioning Hanzo's motives. He left Iga a long time ago for riches and rank, and well, the room were very split on whether to believe him or not. Momonichi Sandayu, however, wants all the Ikki to return to the shrine and take an oath. One copy will be hidden, the other will be made sacred by burning it over a cup of water and then having each member of the Ikki drink the water, allowing the Ikki and the oath to be installed within them. Since that day, since that night, Naoe was a part of the Ikki and devoted her oath to the Creed, defending Iga. She, however, did this unknowingly that she was a part of something bigger, something that would be revealed to her later on in the story. Naoe and Nagato rode to Hidejimi Castle to find the plans of the Oda clan, as that's where they were told they were held up. However, as she was looking over them, in walks Hanzo and actually saves her life. Hanzo, however, pulls out a letter that he found on the way outside of Iga. It was a letter from Tsuyu. a letter that Nagato didn't believe, a letter that should be impossible. And how does Hanzo have this? And this is where we start the game, at the top of the castle, with Naoe and Nagato watching over Nobunaga's men. Enter Iga. The Templar Order had the 2 boxes. One was returned by Tsuyu to Nagato and he was put in the coffin to keep safe, but the other 2 were missing. Someone called Lord Ieyasu found the mirror, which is essentially another regalia, another box. One of these boxes was stolen from the Foreign Order by Lord Ieyasu and kept. He kept this box, essentially waiting to return it to the Emperor in order to try and gain the Emperor's favour. But he never returned it. And later on, Hanzo requested it from the Lord because he was loyal to him, and well, he gave it to him, and that's where we can see him return it, alongside Naoe with the other regalia. But that still left 1 box. Now, there was a man named Nuno Caro and Duarte de Mello. These were ordered by the Templar Order to find the regalia boxes in Japan, and that's who Shinbakufu were working for. Now, it isn't confirmed if they had the final box on the ship, or if it's something that's lost that we need to find that they're also looking for as well. But we right now have 2 of the regalia boxes, the 3rd one we don't seem to have it. But this is where we meet Diogo for the first time. He and his mother were aboard their ship, sailing to what is believed to be Japan. But then again, it could be somewhere else across Europe, we haven't had that confirmed. When Nuno Caro killed his mother because it looked like they were snooping around his office when the wind blew some papers off onto the floor, an assassin comes out of nowhere and essentially saves Diogo's life. I thought this was Tsuyu at first, but there's literally no explanation as to how it could be her, and throughout the entirety of the story it's believed that she is still alive, and she seemed to be stabbed straight through the stomach on this as well. So maybe this was another assassin from Europe rather than Tsuyu from Japan, but again, not confirmed, we don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. But if so, it explained where Tsuyu went and why she didn't come back. Potentially she's being held hostage by Nuno Caro and the Templar Order, or she's badly wounded and she eventually managed to escape and return, which is why people have said that they've seen her around Japan. But again, we don't know about anything about that just yet. But Diogo managed to escape, jumped ship, was shot in the chest, but managed to get out of there alive, and was found by a group of Christian priests, Father Valignano being the main one, and he became his slave. But Diogo would join Father Valignano to Japan, and this is where he met Lord Oda Nobunaga for the first time, and his journey would begin as a samurai. Father Valignano held a meeting with Lord Nobunaga to obtain permission for his priests to roam the lands of Japan. However, what he didn't want Lord Nobunaga to know is that his priests were already roaming the lands, and Nobunaga knew this when he took the meeting. He wanted all of the priests to pay with their heads until he decided to allow them to roam free in exchange for Diogo. Diogo trained, became his right-hand man, and helped him in his next invasion effort to invade Iga in an attempt to bring Japan closer together, removing any of these Christian priests and any of their beliefs, and bringing Japan together as one again. Lord Nobunaga invaded Iga, but he wasn't the only ones invading at the time. There was a new group, formed within Japan, named the Shinbakufu. They were an organisation that worked for the Templar Order, put together to find the regalia's location. They masked the attack and ensured it was done at the same time as Lord Nobunaga's invasion of Iga, and pinned it all on him, made it very believable. Nagato tried to have Naoe go and retrieve the regalia which he'd hidden in the coffin, but a samurai got there before her and took it from her. Naoe tried to retrieve the box from a castle, but when she did, she ran into the 11 Shinbakufu leaders. Here they killed Naoe's father, Nagato, and the rest of the story was essentially a revenge quest to take them down. Yasuke, however, when invading Iga, killed Momoichi Sandayu, and on his wrist was the assassin's blade. after Yasuke's mother died and that assassin was on the ship trying to defend and telling him to run, she also had a blade on her wrist. And ever since then, he seeked out what they are, who they are, what they're a part of, and what it means. And this was the first time he'd seen a blade since that night. Later on in the story, one of Lord Nobunaga's daimyos betrayed him, Lord Mitsuhide. And when Naoe went to kill him, she battled Yasuke, and that's where he'd had the same reaction when seeing the blade on her wrist, essentially letting her live from that point. Yasuke wasn't only just on a vengeance request against the Templar Order for killing his mother, of the likes of Duarte de Mello and Nuno Kano, but he also wanted to learn more about the blades, the bigger picture, the people who wielded them, what they were, what they stood for. They both ventured on together, taking out the Shinbaku, learning that most of their leaders of this league were not in the know as to who the bigger picture was, what the bigger picture was, but only for power, for riches of their areas of Japan. They didn't know who the Templar Order was, they were not in the know for that. The only person that potentially did know was Lord Mitsuhide, and of course, the leader. The leader of the Shinbaku was Ashikiga Yoshiaki. He admitted that he was terrified of the Templar Order, but knew they were working on the islands, so he gave Yasuke the location of them to fulfill his revenge quest and to keep his life. Naoe also took the regalia back to where it belonged, again a location given to her by the leader of the Shinbaku for his life. And here we learnt about Hanzo betraying the creed, but Naoe forgave him and decided to help him find Tsuyu because apparently she's still alive on the island somewhere. Yasuke got his revenge by killing Duarte and then Nuno Karo, with him declaring war on the Templar Order. But guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I really hope you have enjoyed. This is pretty much a full story of Naoe, how she came around, how she got into it, and it's interesting. But I'm hoping DLC expands on this. We need to know more around Tsuyu. We need to know more around Hanzo and his role in this and us working together with him. We need to know a lot more around the Creed and how they're here. So I'm excited for DLC 1 to hopefully give us that information. But if you did enjoy today's video, everyone, subscribing to the channel would be absolutely fantastic. Let's try and hit 30,000 subscribers. It'd mean the world to me. And leave a like down below if you have enjoyed today's video. But without further ado, everyone, we'll see you guys next time.